Sugar, if you are struggling to juggle your career and family life, you need to hear this. My guest today has cracked the code on balancing work and kids without losing your sanity. If you didn't catch part one, here's what you missed.
We have 7 children. I birthed them all. We are not a blended family. My husband and I, we've been married for 22 years. How do you balance having a happy marriage, having, all these kids, doing all the things that you do? Like, how do you balance it all? And, my first response is I don't balance, I blend. I don't do balance. I don't do to-do lists. That I might not spend as much time with my children, but it doesn't mean that I slighted my children. It just means that my priorities for the day are different. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And here, let me just tell you, after 3 kids, I squashed mommy guilt real quick.
Okay, Sugar, let's jump back in.
Can I tell the truth?
Tell the truth.
So years ago, back in 2017, I released a book called The 40-Day Tone of Voice, Tone Down.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I wrote this book is because I had gotten really sick of myself, because I was like, there's a scripture in the Bible that says better for a man to live on the rooftop of a house than to live in a house with a cantankerous wife.
Yes.
And I was the cantankerous wife.
Yeah.
Like, there were no home wreckers in the house except me. And I was yelling a lot. I was yelling a lot at my husband. I was yelling a lot at my kids. God forbid if his mama, well, I wrote a book about it, so she knows. But, I was doing a lot of yelling, and I had a lot of toxic behavior. And I'd gotten so sick of myself that I was like, you know what, Lord, I'm going to challenge myself not to yell or raise my voice or have any inappropriate body language for 40 days.
Yeah.
And so to hold myself accountable, I went on the glorious Facebook. Mm-hmm. And I posted a post, and I said, for the next 40 days, I'm going to commit to not yelling at my husband and children. Mm-hmm. That was all I said. Okay. That was literally all I said. I closed Facebook down. I come back to Facebook, and people were responding on my post that warranted no response from them, by the way. Mm-hmm. And they were like, girl, when are you going to start this? Because I want to join you. And I was like, I'm holding myself accountable. Like, I'm not being responsible for others and all the things. And I'm just telling, my truth.
Right? This is what I need to work on.
Yeah. So I had no idea when I posted that my post, let alone my inbox, was going to fill up with all of these people who were like, I want to go on this journey with you. When are you starting?
Yeah.
And it really surprised me. But there's power in your truth, and there's power in transparency. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do with this? Because so I go and I do this group, and 88 people joined me on this 40-day tone of voice, tone down journey. But the reason why I had to do this and doing the 40-day tone of voice, tone down, and taking people along with me, it taught me the pathology about why I was yelling. It not only created a community, but it taught me about me. It made me dig deep and go back in childhood and all the things that made me feel inadequate, and even the things that were making me feel inadequate as a wife and a mom. And what I realized is it was never about my husband and my children. It was always about me and the things that made me feel like I wasn't good enough. Not because they told me that I wasn't good enough, but the things that made me feel that way, and false truths and things that I had held on to. Yes. And so I say all that to say that, when I wrote that book and really had to look at myself and then say, you know what, Charlotte, you're really flipping out. You need to get your whole self together, or you're going to lose your wonderful husband and your children. It was that. And so the other thing that I realized is that I'm the thermostat in this household. So
Mhm.
if I'm having all of these inadequate feelings and things like that, and now I'm making other people responsible, like even little people, like they're following my lead and they're listening to me, and even having daughters, like I really needed to get myself together because I didn't want my daughters to be marrying somebody and then them being like,
Eating the
oh, what
same.
is all this foolishness and baggage you're bringing here? And they'd be like, my mama was such and such. And I'm like, oh, father, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. Those chickens come home to roost years
And they
later.
do.
And that's the thing I think we miss, because in the moment, oh, I'm just frustrated, or they should have known to take the trash out, or whatever it is that we want to say to justify, the behavior, when really we should look at ourselves. I mean, Charlotte, when I tell you, you are running up my episode list right now, because we just did one, seriously, we just did an episode on mental health, and how particularly in our community,
Yeah.
we don't actually seek out therapy for the things. We just, oh, I'ma just pray about it, or oh, I'm fine. I grew up that way and ain't nothing wrong with me. But your child spills their milk on the table by mistake, and the blow up, that erupts from that, or how you said that, the yelling, and again, this isn't just like for moms or parents. Like, this is for any woman on, it's or anyone, excuse me. We can be on a job, and it's easy to point the finger at, oh, my boss is, or my coworker is, or that friend did, and that we do this a lot,
We do.
in our society. And we forget about that old adage that the one that's pointing at me, there's three pointing back at myself. So you're pointing
Right.
one at them, but look at how many are pointing back at you. And so definitely being accountable for our actions is critical, and it doesn't make you, a lot of times I think we avoid the accountability because we don't want to face that thing, because I already feel like a bad person. So if I look at that bad thing that I did, it's going to prove what I already think of myself, and so I think we avoid a lot of the accountability conversations that we should be having
Yes.
for that reason, but here's the thing, Sugar, none of us are perfect. I mean, we are absolutely not perfect. Charlotte, I thank you for your transparency in that, because that's something I try to do, tell on myself and tell how I messed it up, because people will see, like you said, the social media posts and all the things, and oh, she has a beautiful family, look at her 7 children, da, 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 and don't know the road that it took to get there. Not necessarily the pointing at them, but how you had to be accountable to you, and then those that you invited on the journey to hold you accountable, so that you can be your best self, and then just model that in front of your children, and in connecting with your husband.
Yes. Well, one thing that you were saying about accountability is like really real because, accountability also breeds community.
It does.
And
That's the right
community,
community.
yeah,
Absolutely.
community is something that we all need more than we actually think we do.
Yes.
And I think that one thing that was beautiful about when I did the 40-day tone of voice tone down is the fact that it was a community of people. But what I thought was going to be a whole bunch of moms yelling at their kids was like women who weren't moms, who were CEOs, who were like, you know what, I have a silver tongue and I, could potentially get fired from my job if I don't get my mouth and my body language under control. And then there were some men that were a part of it. And I was like, what? But to have a community of people saying, you know what, this is what I'm struggling with. I'm allowing you to hold me accountable, and for us to be in this community together where we can vent, where we can cry, where we can, pray together, do all the things without judgment, but knowing that we are on a journey to prosper in this whole thing called life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think that, just getting back to the balance and blend of things, I think that we're less likely to be so exhausted when we're not trying to compete with a to-do list that just continues to tally up because you just keep adding something onto it instead of taking care of the priorities that actually happen.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I say blend and throw out balance.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's good, because that's that community piece. That's actually why I created the Sugars. That's why I created the app specifically for the Sugars, where in this app we can support each other. The Sugar Shout Out, where if you have a business, then hey, I'm looking for someone that does or oh yay, congratulations, and all of the things where we can come together, where we can talk about it. It's all like-minded people, not that we're all the same, but we're all like-minded, and we're all trying to level up. We're all trying to get there, wherever our there is, and support each other along the way. And something else you said about the competition piece, that is a huge, 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 huge piece, and it connects to comparison. Comparison is a thief of joy. And so a lot of times it's not just that we're competing with the to-do list. It's not just that we're competing with, the balance. We're competing with someone that's in a completely different state, in a completely different, country, even, that has a completely different set of gifts, that has a completely different calling and purpose, that is a completely different, from you. But yet we're comparing and competing with them and what we see them do. And so when our list or our identity doesn't match up, now we're feeling stressed, depressed, anxious, overwhelmed, because I should by this age be, or I should at this point be, why isn't my business? And it can be anything. It can be, she has 7 kids, I don't have one yet, or why am I not married yet? Or my business isn't, wait, she's an author and a strategist and it could be, we find any number of things to compete, with each other on, and it kills, our joy. It kills our progress. We start self-sabotaging, procrastinating, and all the things, because we've just opened the floodgates to all of this negative energy, all of these negative thoughts to come in and rob us of what the joy and as you said, the priorities that we should be focusing on. I did a post a while back where I said, Sugar, maybe that thing not manifesting, because you're trying to manifest something that's not meant for you. Yes, I can sing, but I'm not trying to manifest a Beyonce career. No, that is not my mission. That is not, who I am. And so I think if we were to really focus in on who we are, focus in on what our gifting is, our purpose is, focus in on that, and then work that thing and prioritize that thing, then we will find that it's not about work-life balance. It's not, it's finding your flow, be that blend, be that balance, or whatever term you want to give it. But ultimately we're trying to get you in the flow. What is the flow for your life? What is the flow, for you? And that's how you ultimately find the peace and the joy that you want, in your life.
I absolutely agree with you, Dr. Tierini, because when you were saying we're using comparison or competition, to do all the things that you were saying. So the thought that came to me is, are we using comparison and competition for all the things that you previously said, or are we using comparison and competition for us to have an excuse and a reason to not fully do what it is that we've been called to do?
Yes.
Because if you actually dig deep, because it requires you to do a level of emotional, mental, spiritual work that has nothing to do with you, with anybody else.
Exactly.
It has everything to do with you. Exactly. It has everything to do with Charlotte. It has everything to do with Dr. Tierini, right? Yep. And so, but the thing is that we don't always do a great job of dealing with ourselves, which is why we're so busy
looking at everybody else,
with other people.
Exactly. It's easier for me. What's that scripture? Don't try to take the speck out of your brother's eye before you get the log out of your eye. It's right. Easy for me to zero in on you, as opposed to looking here within myself. If I can point out something with you or pick at, oh, well, they did this wrong, then I can ignore what's happening, with me. And so that again opens that door for the jealousy and the envy. And I tell people all the time, I pay a high price to sit in this big yellow chair. The level of wisdom, the level of discipline, the level of obedience that God calls me to be
Yes.
able to sit in this space,
Yes.
to be able to interact and connect with his beautiful angels. There's a responsibility that's on my shoulders. Same thing with you. For God to bless you with 7 of his angels on top of your clients, there's a level of responsibility that you have to, be responsible for, and make sure that your iron is sharpened before he will actually bless you and grace you with that. So we can't be, lazy spiritually, lazy emotionally,
Right.
lazy mentally, and think we can just grind our way into this next level. No, 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 sugar. There is a certain level of work, and there's a certain posture
Yes.
that you have to have. You have to
Yes.
have a certain posture, and no one can dictate what that posture is except for God. And when he tells you what it is, you have to get into it. The posture I had to assume. So yours was yelling. Mine, not so much the yelling. Mine is I did not understand the gifting that was this, and I did not understand what God wanted to do with it. And my sugars have probably heard me say this before. So I was that friend that you would call and say, "Hey, Sprint is messing up on my phone bill." And by the time I got done laying Sprint low, you had a free phone, I had a free phone, we all had free minutes. Then that person, you got to stop and go, wait, did she just cuss me out or give me a compliment? Should I get mad? Or my tongue is quick and it's sharp. And so I had to do the work because I didn't know what God was trying to do with this. So if I didn't get this under control, if I didn't put a watch on my mouth and a clock on my tongue, I wouldn't have been graced to do this. I wouldn't have been able to, but it required me to
Right.
do I couldn't look at, well, they just shouldn't have took it like that. Well, I
Right.
didn't mean it like that. No, I have to be responsible every single day. That's when I'm on camera. That's when I'm off camera. That's when I'm talking to someone in Target. That's when the people mess up my food in the restaurant, which happens all the time. That's when I'm talking to my husband in good times and in bad, and particularly in bad, and in good and in bad. That's at all times.
Yeah.
That's the work that we have to do before we can talk about really stepping into these different spaces and these different levels, and balancing or blending the blessings that we're asking God for. Like,
Absolutely.
seriously.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. At the end of the day, when all is said and done and homework is done and kitchens are clean, and I don't clean the kitchen because I cook the food. So let's just,
That's me too. Fist bump. Yes, me too.
all right, great.
I cook, I don't clean it. Yes.
Right. All the things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I have to be able to get in my bed and do what my coach tells me, and that's to dump my day. I've got to be able to get in the bed, and I've got to be able to dump my day so that I can sleep peacefully, knowing that if God blesses me with another day tomorrow,
yeah,
I'm going to start all over again.
Yeah.
And that's why God's grace and mercy is just
Anew,
so
every
beautiful.
Day. Yes.
It's so beautiful because even when I don't get it right, whether it's with my husband or my children or, somebody out in the world, I get to do a couple things. I get to say, I'm sorry. And that's even saying I'm sorry to myself and forgiving me, right?
Yes.
I get to say I'm sorry. And then I get to thank God for his grace and mercy, knowing that he's given me another opportunity to get it right tomorrow, however right's going to look like for me.
Right. Oh, that is so beautiful. That is beautiful. And because I know you, I knew that was, somewhere in that direction you were going to go. But that's why I kind of asked the question as a setup, because we think we're in this. I don't even want to say microwave generation, but we want it fast. We want it now. Give me the 3 steps. Give me the 5 places. But you have to walk this thing out.
You do.
It's a day by day by day. And what worked for me yesterday may not work for me today. And I have to let myself be flexible enough to bend and flow with that. I mean, even look at this week. We were going to go on Monday, and then things happened. And so, oh, never mind. We're gonna go back to the calendar. We're gonna flip this thing, and okay, we're gonna, pick a day. What day for you? What's good for me?
Yeah.
But we get so bent out of shape because we're trying to be so controlling on the process when we don't control the process. We don't control the clock. We don't control the timeline. And that is what drives the anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
And the overwhelm, because we're thinking it has to be by this time or this way, or I should have it by now. And it's a day by day process.
It is.
The day my dad told me, I think I was like 35, 36. And it was right after I lost my job. I was 35. I just lost my job. And oh my God, and I remember saying, I thought it would have all come together by now. I thought it would have all come together by now. And my dad, who is 82 years old, he said, just as plain as I can hear him right now, he said, oh no, Tierini, it don't start getting good until you get about 50, 60. You in your 30s. What? I have to wait that long? And it just like, initially, that is not what I wanted to hear, because I was just like, wait a minute, because I thought it would have been flowing by now.
Right.
But now I can hear the wisdom in what he was saying once I got out, outside of myself. And really what he was saying was that it's not until most of the time, our 50s or 60s, that we get into the flow and we relax. It's not that things change necessarily, or, like, all the kids are going to get all straight A's, or things won't happen. It's just that at a certain age, typically we'll start to relax and we'll start being able to go with the flow and giving ourselves that grace and saying, hey, you got a new day, new mercies every morning. What is today going to bring? And being okay with that and really flowing in that.
I agree with that. And I think that's why seasons of life matter.
Mm-hmm. And knowing what season of life you're in matters.
Yes, because, there are different levels of growth and maturity, no matter what age you are, So like me now at 50 is like a whole different person than I was like when I was 30. Like at 30, I had my first child when I was 30. Okay. Mm-hmm. So just think about that. I had my first child when I was 30. Mm-hmm. And my last born was born in September, and I turned 40 2 months later. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it never dawned on me until somebody said it, because people try to calculate my womb life and whatnot. Get
off my ovaries.
Yeah. And they were like, "Oh my gosh, a decade of your life was like dedicated to having kids," and I was like, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, was it really? Mm-hmm. And I never even contemplated it
that way. Yeah.
So even in that time, knowing that like from 30 to practically 40, like I was birthing children and greatness into this world, I was like, so when I turned 40 but even at 40, like my youngest was like only a few months old, and, my dad died and all these different things. Yeah. And, and then I was like smart enough to like go into therapy for the first time and all the things. And I'm telling you, like, who I am today at 50
is not the same person.
It's not. Like, I even tell my husband, I'm like, bruh.
Not bruh. You hit him with the bruh.
Yeah, I'm like, understand. I'm like, I was 28 when we got married. All of this has changed and evolved.
Yes.
Don't come looking for that person right there.
Who you say I do to is not here.
Right. Like she's not just gone. She's gone.
She's gone.
Gone. Never to be seen again.
Again.
Ever.
Goodbye.
Ta-ta.
That's real, you know, and it's funny even as you're saying that in terms of like the expectations of, because even to hear 7 kids today and now, you know, days are just like, what? Like you don't hear that anymore. It used to be common, you know, back because my grandmother had 8 children and you know, but now it's not as common. Well, I'm on the other end of the spectrum, 42, and I mean, I'm nowhere near menopause, anything. And the doctor's like, well, you know, you can, right? You know, so who knows what God has in store for me? But it's one of those, wait a minute, that's old. You too old. Well, listen, sugar, if Michael comes down right now and says, hell, Tierini, you have been blessed and highly favored. You know, it's just one of those things. But when you are hearing sometimes the expectation, you know, why you did, well, you should have did that younger. Well, the way my body was set up younger, God knew that I was crazy and on South Beach in my 20s. The University of Miami
come through
wide open. We was outside, sugars. We was the what my Sarah said. We was the original city girls, okay? Like, back in the day, you know. But just the way that again that timing of it in the season, that wasn't the season at that point in time. You know, I got married at 35. 34, about to turn 35. That was the season. So what might be a too late season for somebody else might be a right on time season for me. So in knowing what season you're in and playing to your season, you know, what I look like trying to now be on South Beach. That season.
You look good, girl. What you talking about?
Thank you, but look, Auntie,
we can go. Like, let's pack our bags. We can be on South Beach. What are you saying?
But South Beach during the daytime, not just waking up at 11 o'clock to hit the club by midnight. No, I'm trying to be back in the house because Auntie gonna be asleep, sitting in the club like this over in the corner, not like
10 o'clock. Lights out. Yeah.
Like, give me a good day party, some brunch, and I'm coming back in the house because that ain't my season no more. I can't 2 a.m. You know, into Denny's or the Waffle House, and no, that's gonna give me indigestion just thinking about it. That's not my season. This is my season. But again, as we're talking about kind of that balance piece and the blending piece, knowing what season you're in and being flexible in that season. So just because everybody else might say you're out of season, you might be right in the season that you need to be. And so finding that means knowing your season and playing, you know, to that season.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one thing that I have learned, and I hope everybody hears me and hears me good when I say this, your trajectory and God's trajectory
are not the same. Jesus. Say it one more time for the people in the back. Say it again.
Your trajectory and God's trajectory are not the same.
At all.
No.
At all.
No.
They
because
are not.
If anybody had told me after going to college, you know, and, you know, going to Hampton University and going to the United States Sports Academy and getting a master's degree in sports medicine, like my trajectory for my life and my plan working in the sports industry did not meet, like I was working with teams. My teams were not looking like Lemuel, Abigail, Gabrielle, Ariel, Samuel, Israel, and Isabel.
God gave you your own team.
Hello?
You have your own basketball team.
I'm like, what is happening here? Like, what? Like, how did we get here? I mean, I know how we got here, but
no,
like, but come on, like that's not what I saw for myself.
Yeah.
But thank God he, you know, that his plans for me and, you know, were greater and bigger and all the things because I get to like laugh and play and, do all the things with the
Mhm.
arrows that God has given me as I'm,
Mhm.
fearfully launching them out into the world.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I get to
That's so
like,
beautiful.
I mean, the fact that God even was like, girl, with you and your foolishness, I find you worthy
I mean,
of having these children.
I
And I'm like, what were you thinking, God?
listen.
My kids probably are wondering sometimes, what were you thinking, God?
That's why I say
But
hallelujah if I
yeah,
do, hallelujah if I don't. Like I blessed is the name. I'm okay on either side of this fence because I have a great appreciation
yeah,
for the role of mother
yeah.
and what you do, what you guys do as a mom and all the things that you take on. And so that's something that I definitely in looking at how you blend your life and again knowing you and knowing how you show up and knowing how you advocate for your children and how you just being such an amazing professional powerhouse that you are. It's like, yes, Lord, if you say that I can do that, then I can do that. If you say that that's not what you got for me to do, then I'm good. I'm going to, stay over here because it is a lot,
But
that
can I just say this? Here's a
Mhm.
caveat. Even if you're not good with it,
Mhm.
okay? Like, even if you're not good with the fact that God was like, yeah, you thought you were doing that, but that's not what you're doing.
Mm,
Even if you're not good with it, because I'll never forget when God told me that that's not what I was going to, that my trajectory was not that.
right.
We had to have a come to like a for real, like,
Yeah.
not just to come to Jesus. We had to have a come to the whole Trinity
So
conversation.
yeah, we had to hit the threshing floor with
We
that one.
did.
Yeah.
And, but then when I got to the place where it was well with my soul, then God sent me my husband.
Yeah.
Then God
Yeah.
started doing all the things.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Like, if I wasn't doing this, then there was no way that I was going to be voted Virginia Mother of the Year in 2020. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, girl,
Mhm.
I didn't know it either. I was like, say what? But
Yeah.
yeah, like, if there's so many things that if I had stayed on my own course, that I would have really crashed and burned because
Yeah.
and let me just tell you, I would rather be on God's trajectory
Then on the one I
than
had
on
set for
mine.
myself, you are absolutely right. You are so right about that. Like because I think I've said to you, like, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like,
Yeah,
this
you
was
told me that.
never my thing. This was never, I went to school for undergrad to get a degree in psychology, and I got to my junior year, and I was like, you know what? I don't like people. I don't like people that much. I don't want to do this, but I was too far into the degree.
Yeah,
I just finished the degree and then switched to education and didn't know that I was still, even though I thought I was getting off the trajectory that clearly God had put in my heart, I was still in it. My master's educational psychological studies. Like, I was still right in the flow. And so when everything, the bottom fell out, it was really falling in together, and
I love
so
that.
that,
When the
that's
bottom fell
why
out.
I now would look at things and look at, the ups and downs of, business, the ups and downs of marriage, the ups and downs of, motherhood or being a TT or whatever it is. I just now have to look at it and say, you know what? It is well with my soul. Now I still might freak out. I still have to go call my therapist. I still got to go talk to my coach, but I can at least surrender and say, you know what? It will all work out according to his trajectory in
Yeah,
his timing and what he know the plans that he has for me. And so now, as same thing as you said, the books and the business and the sugars and the events and the this and the I didn't see any of this in my 20s, none of it, or even really in my 30s. And so now
yeah.
there's some things that I'm looking at that I'm going, okay, Lord, you done showed me this, so I'm just going to trust you as you carry me, through that. And that, I think, is another component of finding your blending your balance is
Yeah.
that being able to surrender, being able to, just really say, you know what, I don't like how this feels, but I know that it's going to come together, for my good to write a beautiful the beautiful story of my life.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. We could be on here talking all day, but we ain't gonna keep everybody. But I do want to ask you, as a family strategist, as a coach, what are, like, just give me two top tips that you give to your clients when they come to you and they're trying to find their perfect blend and make it all make sense for them. What are two tips that you give?
The clients that I work with, they're all female. So usually my first thing is, while you're trying to find your balance and your not your balance, but your blend, is whatever you're blending, whatever you're putting in your blender, make sure you're putting your joy in there too. Because there's so many things that go on in the course of the day, right?
Right.
Happiness is because things happen. But the things that joy brings, joy lasts forever. When you're just not happy anymore.
Right.
And so my thing is, let one of your main ingredients be joy.
Yeah.
The other thing is, be clear that when you are defining what your blend is, whatever your blend is, make sure that it's actually yours. Make sure your smoothie has been specifically designed for you.
Yes.
Whether it has protein powder in it or not.
Yes. Yes.
Make sure that it's specifically designed for you, because anything that you're doing, that you're ingesting, that's not designed for you, you're going to throw it up.
Yeah. That is so good. That is so good. Because, and it sounds simple, right? But we do it all the time. Well, this worked for my friend, so I'm going to do the same thing and do it the exact way that her life not set up like your life. Or what I see a lot of times with my clients is, well, my mom did it this way, or my dad did it that way, so I should be able to do it this way. And we haven't taken into account, what works for us, our lifestyle, what the demands that are on us now. We're just trying to emulate what worked for them and wondering why it doesn't work for us, and getting frustrated and stressed because it's not working. Yeah.
I agree. I agree with that. I want to tell you, I'm going to tell you really quick. I have a lot of stories, but I'm going to tell you a story. One time my mom came over to my house. I remember, when I started having kids, I felt like I needed to, match up to whatever these expectations of stay-at-home moms, were that, I thought my mom had, and then there was June Cleaver and Claire Huxtable and all these people and, whatever. I remember my mom came over to my house one day and she said, Charlotte, like, why have you not done the laundry? And in my mind, like, laundry is a curse word. So I was like,
with dishes.
Yeah. And I was like, that's not in the blender today, Mom. I'm not doing laundry. Like, I hate laundry. I mean, I thank God for laundry, but the laundry is the devil. Like, when I have to wash it and fold it. Anyway. Yeah. So my mom starts going in on all the things that she felt like I should have been doing that day. And it really started to frustrate me. And as much as I love my mom, I heard myself say, well, Mom, if you want the laundry to be done, you do it.
I mean, I concur, but what did Mama say when you said
and
that?
She looked at me and I said, so look, I had to quickly, because it doesn't matter that you're over 30, that's still your mama. And my mom, so I'm only 4'11", even though sitting in this chair I look like 6'2", right? But my mom is 4'9", and my mom was like, there was no talking back like that. Like, what are you talking about? Before she could reach for me or anything like that, which she really wouldn't have, because I was too old by then. But she looked at me and I had to completely clarify what I was saying, quick, fast, and in a hurry. And I said to her, I said, Mom, I said, basically, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I said, but what I want you to know is that if I did not do the laundry today, the world is not going to end.
Yes.
I said, and I'm not upset that the laundry is not done because there are people in this house who have other things to wear. And I find no joy in doing the laundry today. So I might just decide to do the laundry tomorrow. But Mom, I said, you're not going to make me feel bad or feel guilty about not doing the laundry. And then I went into this whole dissertation. I said, because Mom, I have enough to feel bad and feel guilty about and blah, blah, blah. And you're my mom and you shouldn't be like making me feel you know, but I mean, but that's also like one of the times I felt like I put my big girl panties on and moved outside and moved outside of her expectations of what she thought I should or should not be. I mean, be doing or who I should and should not be as my role as a stay-at-home mom. I said, and oh, by the way, I said, I just want you to remember that you raised 2 kids and I have 7. I said, so this family dynamic is not the same as our family dynamic was. I said, but I just need you to understand that I don't feel bad.
Yeah.
The laundry's not done right now. Like, I don't. And she just looked at me and you know what? She said, I get it.
Yeah.
She said, I understand that.
Yeah.
But it was like one of the first times when I was basically like, when I was like, you know what, let me just go ahead and deal with these like false expectation things right now because I'm tired, I'm worn out. I think I was still nursing Isabel too. I'm like, the laundry, like what?
Yeah.
I'm like trying to put ice on these nipples and stuff. Like, what the heck?
Ain't nobody starting that laundry right now.
No daggone laundry.
Yeah. No, but that's good because a lot of times we get stuck because we don't want to stand up to mom or dad. You know, or we're not exercising our boundaries. There's that word. We'll open up that can of worms another day, Charlotte. But we, you know, we don't want to communicate and enforce those boundaries, so we get stuck in a cycle of doing what worked for them or what they expect us to do or to be or to, you know, and not really what's real for us and what's authentic for us and what we need in that moment. And whenever we get into that, we'll never find our blend or our balance because we'll constantly be leaning towards whatever they say or whatever they do. And it doesn't necessarily have to be mom or dad, you know.
Because it can be the church. Because girl, I can go down a whole nother road on all of that, but we do not have the time.
You opening up cans of worms. We're going to have you back because that's a whole, you know, how we hyper spiritualize stuff. And really is, yes.
That's a whole nother, we need a whole nother session on that because,
So tell the Sugars how they can connect with you, where you can be reached, your social. Tell the Sugars how they can connect with you.
So you all can connect with me on Facebook at Charlotte E. Avery or on my other page, Being Charlotte Avery. On Instagram, it's Being Charlotte Avery because I can only be me. And on Instagram, Instagram is Being Charlotte Avery, but also on LinkedIn at Charlotte E. Avery. Please, like tap into like my resources, all of my books, the 40-Day Tone of Voice Tone Down, Afro Izzy, Riding the Potty Train, No One Ever Told Me. All of those books are on Amazon, so you can go find them right there. And if you just happen to want to learn a little bit more about me, you can go on beingcharlotteavery.com.
Charlotte, you inspire me. You are such an inspiration, Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
You know what? You don't have to invite all this craziness on your platform. And I appreciate that you did. I love you.
Crazy recognizes crazy, you know, as you do. But look, as a coach, I don't use the crazy word. We're just unique, recognizes unique.
Yes.
In this space. But no, it's always been a kindred spirit. From day one, you know, we've always, you know, click clack. But I definitely would absolutely have you on because you have so much, you know, to offer the Sugars and to learn from you. And we will definitely have you back because you start tapping on a couple of cans of worms that we're gonna have to open and talk about. But yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
If you are still wondering about how to create a life balance that works for you, I highly recommend that you watch this next video where I give you 5 tips to creating your life balance. Thanks for watching, Sugar. See you in the next video.